Hear my cry, O God, listen to my prayer. From the ends of the earth I call to you. I call as my heart grows faint. Lead me to the rock that is higher than I. For you have been my refuge, a strong tower against the foe. I long to dwell in your tent forever and take refuge in the shelter of your wings. For you, God, have heard my vows. You have given me the heritage of those who fear your name. Increase the days of the king's life, his years for many generations. May he be enthroned in God's presence forever. Appoint your love and faithfulness to protect him. Then I will ever sing in praise of your name and fulfill my vows day after day. So this psalm is people say David wrote it when he was in the cave or when he was actually running away from Absalom, but we really not sure. But he nevertheless wrote us this psalm when he was in one of his most trying conditions of his life. And if I can draw your attention to the first three verses, it says, "Hear my cry, O God, listen to my prayer. From the ends of the earth I call to you." And David is making like this desperate plea to God, like, God, please hear my prayer. I'm crying out to you from the ends of the earth. And from the ends of the earth, I'm calling to you as my heart grows faint. In some versions, it says, as I feel overwhelmed, as my heart is feeling overwhelmed. And here, this word from the ends of the earth is like a figurative sentence, which means probably you reached an end of yourself. You are beyond human understanding or human reasoning to the situations around you or to circumstances around you or to whatever life you're leading. But here is David, who's probably caught in a similar situation, and he says, God, I'm crying out to you. And he says, lead me to the rock that is higher than I. Why a rock? Because a rock is something that when you look at it, it signifies strength, it signifies stability. It's something that can withstand the strong currents of the waves. It can withstand strong winds. It's something that you can rely on. In one of the proverbs, it says, the name of the Lord is like a strong tower, like a rock, and whoever runs into it will be safe. So David knew that when his heart was overwhelmed, he could only ask God to lead him to a rock that is higher than him, higher than his emotions, higher than his understanding, higher than his wisdom, higher than his abilities to reason out things. And he knew that there was only strength in knowing that he can go on and call out to God. And he says in verse 3, God, you have been my refuge, a strong tower against the foe. And he knew that based on his, like he starts with saying, God, I called to you. And then verse 3 says, you have been my refuge. He was he based his present trust on God's past faithfulness. He tells God, you have been my refuge. You've given me victory. And now I'm again calling out to you because I know you have the ability to do so again. And then if I would take your attention to verse 4, it says, I long to dwell in your tent forever and take refuge in the shelter of your wings. What does a tent mean here? In other versions, it says presence. And David knew the secret to where his attention would be diverted, to where the answers to his prayers will be met. It was in the presence of God. In one of the Psalms, David says, God, in your presence, there is fullness of joy. There are pleasures evermore. You remember in the Old Testament, wherever the ark of the Lord went, to whichever house it went to whichever place it went to, there were a blessing of God was commanded. That is the amazing presence that God carries, So in this psalm, David starts off with saying, God, I cry to you as my heart is growing faint, as I feel overwhelmed. Lead me to someone that is higher than myself, and that only is you, God. You have been faithful. You will continue to be faithful. But you have been my refuge. You have heard my vows, and and I know David is expressing that confidence that you will continue to be, Lord, you will continue to show me that faithfulness. We just heard from Alan's testimony about how God, even today when he remembers that faithfulness of God, his heart is overwhelmed because that is the amazing goodness of God. And then it was verse 6 to 8, it just talks about how David was so thankful. It started off with a word of despair. God, I'm crying out to you. I'm overwhelmed. And in verse 8, it says, God, I will ever sing your praise. God, David knew, and I think we can all learn from David's life, that when we start something on a note of despair and we bring it to God's throne to help him take full control, there's only going to end up in hope. God God takes us from despair to hope, knowing that He is a faithful God. His faithfulness lasts through all generations, and His promises are yes and amen. So I pray and encourage each one of you that no matter what we are going through, let's make Jesus the rock. He's above everything that we can understand or even reason out. He's the rock that we can run to. He's the rock on which we can stand. And as the song say, Christ alone is our rock. Every other ground is sinking sand. So I pray that you'll be blessed by this song. Amen.